I don't know about you, but I feel like 2024 was one of the craziest years. And we have a video here by Moon, who's an amazing YouTuber, and it's why 2024 was so
2024
stupid.
has been an eventful year to say the least. From elections, assassinations and war to high-profile arrests, acquittals and breakdancing, 2024 has had it all.
I forgot
so
about
let's
that, man.
explore
The
these big
Olympics was
events and
wild.
worldwide trends that define the past year,
Whole
starting
year was
all the way
wild,
back
man.
in January. While 2024 might have proven the old adage that change is only constant,
Look
when it
back.
first began, everything seemed like it might stay the same. While 2022 and 2023 had seen new wars erupt, going into 2024, people weren't holding their breath waiting for peace. Lots of the old conflicts from previous years kept marching on. A year later, in the front.
Yeah, it's been a thing that I've kind of been struggling to deal with because on this channel, I like to talk about everything that's interesting and I have my mind on and things I want to talk about. Now, I like talking about politics and stuff like this with my friends, but I know it can be a drain sometimes. And really, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to negatively drain everybody on my YouTube channel, right? So I kind of try to steer away from it unless it's just absurdly crazy. So, yeah.
In Ukraine has barely moved, while the West Bank and Gaza Strip are still
channel.
engulfed in conflict. The numerous lesser well-known civil wars across the world, like in Myanmar, faded into the background for everyone they didn't affect.
I didn't even
The
know
outlook
about
for
that.
politics at the start of 2024 was different though. With elections scheduled across the world, including the UK, France, and the US, everyone knew that there was a lot of potential for change. Taiwan was the first major country in line in what would become a rare event this year. Their incumbent Democratic Progressive Party won the presidency with over 40% of the vote. And this wasn't a complete victory though, with the DPP losing their majority in the Taiwanese parliament. Looking back on it now at how incumbents have fared throughout the year, they ought to be happy they didn't lose much more. This result could have had major implications for the future and China's increased aggression against the island nation. And while Taiwan was wrapping up their election, the US political machine was still getting started. In February, Biden won his bid to stand for re-election in the Democratic primaries, facing very little opposition to his ticket. This was despite clear health concerns, of course. Even though the media denied it, everyone could see it. In January, a prominent professor...
And it's crazy because after the election, now everybody's just like straight up about it. It's like, yeah, he's not fit to be in office. It's like, bro, like, what?
Gave Biden a 75% chance of living through
Y'all
a
were saying he was
term.
better than
A month
ever.
Later, and the special
Sharp as a
counsel
tack.
investigating his use of classified documents described Biden in much less favorable terms. While he found no wrongdoing on Biden's part, he did conclude that Biden had significant memory issues and limitations. And this was just
And that
one
man had
warning
the
sign
finger on the
amongst
button.
thousands, but they all seemed to fall on deaf ears. Even at this point in the year, many Democrats felt it was too late to change candidates and impossible to convince Biden to step aside. Meanwhile, Germany became one of the first countries in the EU to legalize cannabis possession and use. While the country has been de facto legal in countries like the Netherlands for decades, Germany became the first major economy in the bloc to write it into their laws. While legislation could potentially bring in billions in tax revenue and cannabis is almost certainly less harmful than other legal drugs like alcohol, it still had its critics who wondered what the proliferation of the drug might do to Germany as a whole. Depending how it all goes over for the next few years, this could be the start of a wave of legislation across the continent.
I'm sorry, but there's so many people, and I get it. The politics of the people that watch this channel is gonna range a lot. But you can tax the fuck out of it because it's a sin tax, and I'm just speaking from a U.S. based information base, right? A mindset. But you can tax the fuck out of it like you do with alcohol, with tobacco, stuff like that. It's so beneficial financially, and if you're scared of your kids or family members or friends smoking weed, being potheads, being lazy, or whatever it might be, at the end of the day, they're going to get their hands on weed. It's not hard to do. At least in America, it's not. So I don't see the issue with having it legalized. It's regulated. You know who's buying it. It's easy to track that way. And also, in the United States, we have a huge problem with the fucking cartel, with them selling drugs and fucking lacing shit with fentanyl. Like, why the fuck are we having people die on the fucking streets because people don't want to fucking legalize it? It's ridiculous, bro. It's fucking absurd.
In March in the UK, the government blocked the sale of the
grow it and
Telegraph,
have it regulated.
one of the major newspaper companies, to a UAE-led business consortium. It came as a shock considering the UK has sold pretty much everything of value over the past few decades. Whether it's luxury properties and land rights in the capital, huge estates and tracts of land in the countryside, or even the biggest sports teams and leagues, the UAE and other foreign interests have bought up all of the UK. But the UK government decided to finally draw the line at newspapers and the media, although how long this will last remains to be seen. In April, we then saw another big election for the world, this time in South Korea. The country operates a system similar to the...
Man, When they had martial law, boy, that shit was
US, with
crazy.
parliamentary and presidential elections separated by years. The winner of the previous election was hoping to gain a majority in parliament. So far, with a powerful opposition party in control of the National Assembly, he'd been unable to truly govern. Unfortunately for him, his party failed to achieve a majority, seemingly sealing his fate as a placeholder president. A week later, in India has also had an election with nearly 1 billion people registered to vote. And while Modi's ruling party lost some seats in parliament and the opposition to his rule got a lot more organized, he still remained in almost complete control of the country. The ongoing proxy war in the Middle East was also heating up in April as well, with Iran and Israel directly launching missiles and drone strikes at each other. While Iran's attempts rarely got through Israel's air defenses, Israel was able to effectively strike.
The fact that we see this on social media and on YouTube is fucking crazy, bro. I remember growing up and the most graphic thing I saw was like 9/11, and I was like fucking what, 4 or 5, and then the next thing was like when we went to war with Iraq, videos started being uploaded by ISIS and whatever it might be on YouTube, and that was like the most graphic shit I ever saw. But then there was like this huge period in between there that I didn't really see anything like that. I don't know if it was because I wasn't looking for it or whatever it might be. My friends weren't showing to me anything like that. But there was years where I didn't see anything like war related. And now you have this shit, like with the Ukraine situation. I've seen many like YouTube shorts or on Twitter. And Twitter's crazy, man. And you'll just see like firefights, people just fucking in trenches, hiding. You hear fucking drones around. You can see people getting blown up. And it's just so fucking graphic. It's insane, man.
Like around a will. It compounded with their other victories against Hezbollah and Hamas, both
Everybody's
organizations funded and armed by Iran. But it also led to a mass wave of hatred towards Israel. But of course, for most people, it wasn't just the election and wars that defined this year. For many in the video games industry, 2024 was just the continuation of a collapse that had started a year earlier. Plummeting sales, mediocre games, and a lack of easy investment has led to a wave of cutbacks and redundancies across the industry. In April, the company Epic Games, who have been lousy with their money ever since Fortnite took off, also announced hundreds more layoffs. They're a company that's been giving out games for free.
Everybody had layoffs, bro. Everyone's been having layoffs in the gaming industry,
trying to buy out Steam's dominant market share. So to see them laying off their staff made people realize that the games industry was far more bloated than anyone had realized. Although in an industry with such a bad record of treating its workers in lots of ways, it was all still business as usual. There were still some glimmers of hope and beauty throughout it all. One of those was the total solar eclipse seen across North America. When the next one occurs in 2044, we can only hope it darkens the skies of a world at peace.
My dumbass looked straight into that motherfucking sun, bro. And I was like, God damn, that shit bright.
Then moving into May, and things got even worse for Iran when its president and foreign minister were both killed in a helicopter crash, attempting to fly over a mountain range during a massive storm doomed both the vehicle and any chances of a rescue once they went down.
Bro, I don't know about you, but ever since Kobe died, I have never had an urge to get in a canhelicopter. Like, I know, like, people, like in Texas, people will fly in helicopters and shoot pigs. It looks a lot of fun. But I just can't do it, bro. I can't do it.
And this was especially damaging to the Iranian government's future, as the Prime Minister had been slated to replace the Supreme Leader once he stepped down. And now they've been forced to reshuffle and come up with some new options. But May also saw Trump getting found guilty in his hush money trial. While Democrats protested that this was in fact a legitimate investigation into wrongdoing, the rest of the country argued that this was just a politically motivated way for the Democrats to smear and attack the
It really did look like that.
Former president, completely stopping him in his tracks and ruining any chances of him becoming president. Whether or not they said it though, most people knew that nothing would happen until after the election. That would be the only real factor in whether he would see actual consequences or not. Then in June, Assange was finally free after years and years of uncertainty and embassy squatting. The plea deal they agreed saw Assange finally allowed to leave the UK for his native Australia, in a win against the forces of censorship. But as of this video, the situation for Snowden is still very bleak. But in possibly the biggest event of the year though, an interview with a random woman went viral.
Bro, I remember when Joe Rogan interviewed Snowden. Oh my god, that shit was so crazy. I was driving at work. I literally remember the road I was on and me listening to the Snowden interview. That shit was fucking crazy.
Launching the career of Hawk Tuah. Her subsequent career would become emblematic of a social media hype machine gone completely insane. From just one viral moment, she capitalized as much as possible, launching her own podcast like everyone else does now.
And she country. She know how to milk that cow.
Doing everything she could to stay in the public eye. And she was just the tip of the iceberg of a huge wave of people, doing everything they could to get their 5 minutes of fame. And from that fame, either doing a rug pull with a cryptocurrency, or creating yet another generic podcast.
so generic that it was so corny that people were literally making fun of it, and by making fun of it, giving her more traction. It's like what people say about Trump. They say any publicity is good publicity, and cringy getting make fun of, bro. It worked. It was so stupid that it worked.
If you've ever run your own business, you'll know how much of a pain it is to have all these different resources all in one place. Actions.
That's a long ass ad, brother.
With the time with your team using.
What is this?
I highly recommend it. Disney with the link in the description below, or use the pinned comment down below.
Link in description. Let's look at that real quick. Looking for to grow your business online. It's Odoo. Shout out to the link.
To get started today with your first app for free. Disney then saw their worst failure in a year of disappointments when The Acolyte released to awful reviews and terrible viewership. For many fans, it came as a final nail in the coffin for Disney's Star Wars and the general treatment of their franchises. While the rest of the year would see some success for Disney, it wasn't really their own doing. Pixar and Deadpool's enduring popularity prevented a complete
Inside Out 2, a fucking sequel of a banger. Deadpool and Wolverine, most anticipated duo in cinematic for superheroes, because obviously they've been teasing that shit for the longest time, and also it was carried by so many fucking cameos. The Johnny Storm, or not Johnny Storm, I guess. Yeah, it was Johnny Storm. That shit was fucking wild.
Disaster later on in the year, of course.
It was my
But
favorite
their
part of the
habit
movie.
of grinding their properties into dust did seem to
Moana
finally
2.
catch up to them in 2024, and was a final wake-up
Mufasa
call
as
for the
well. I
studios.
forgot this came
The
out.
US election was also heating up again with their first presidential debate. With nowhere to hide, Biden's health problems and faltering speech were now on full display to the public, and all Trump
Man.
had to do was watch as his opposition crumbled right in front
I really thought he was about to have a stroke or
of
something.
him.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the.
I really think someone sabotaged this man, bro. Like, is he? Oh, because like after this, he just seemed so healthy. After this, like he was just happy. He was fine. Way more healthy. Like they said he had a cold, but it feels like someone slipped something in his drink.
The
Like, look at his tie, bro. Like, who did his tie?
total initiative relative to what we're
Shit
going to do
crooked
with
as hell.
more border patrol and more asylum officers.
Even with
Man, Trey was like, what the fuck is this guy
such a
saying?
dismal performance, it still took nearly a month for
Oh,
Biden to
man.
actually step down and let Kamala take
Joe,
over the
what
ticket.
you
By
doing?
then, though, it was already far too late to make a difference on the final result.
Cap, bro. Cap. The amount of celebrities that came out and voiced their opinion, and there's so many people that were that listen to like Shannon Sharp or whoever it might be, and they see that and they're like, oh, I automatically have to vote for this person now. Trump's the devil. And there's also people on the right that do the same thing probably with Joe Rogan. You know, they see Joe Rogan, they see Trump, and they're like, oh, I gotta vote for this guy now too. So it was, they had a chance.
While people's eyes were certainly on America's
just kinda
election
blew it.
cycle throughout the year, July saw both France and the UK reach the end of theirs. First, in the tail end of June, France went to the polls for the first time, with a second election
I don't
held
know
shortly
anything about
after to
this.
finalize the results. It wasn't an election that legally had to happen. Macron could have technically waited years for the next one, but politically he had to act, and the people of France grew their hatred towards the establishment. Earlier on in the year, right-wing candidates pretty much swept the EU's parliamentary elections. Macron's long-term presidential rival Marine Le Pen gained a massive amount of power, and Macron had to shore up his position in response. In the end, though, the results weren't really to anyone's liking. Yet again, France had a hung parliament, and Macron's centrist party lost even more power while both the left and the right gained support. An election that just showed how much division and hatred there is in France between both parties, and an election that was meant to solve France's
I hate that, bro. I hate the concept of like people hating the other party, because you shouldn't really vote for the party. You should vote for the individual on their views. And like obviously you want parties to have, you know, that align with certain ideals or whatever it might be. But like say the people that just vote right because they vote right every single time. I don't agree with that mindset at all. Because at the end of the day, like the right or the left might have shitty fucking leaders. Like we have had a time in the US now where leadership has been sparse. so sparse, man.
Political stability
Everyone's
ended
like,
up
we
making
want
things even
younger,
more
better
polarized.
leaders.
It wasn't an arrangement that would last for long. At pretty much the same time, the UK was also staring down the barrel of another election. After well over a decade in power, the Conservative Party had run through every possible leader it could offer, and they ended up with nobody's favourite or anyone's elected choice, Rishi Sunak. Keir Starmer, as leader of the opposition, barely had to do anything. Everyone expected a landslide purely based on how tired people were of their current government, and when the results finally...
Yeah, why the fuck y'all arresting people for making Facebook posts over there in the UK? That's just a little, that's a little out there,
came
man.
through in early July, it was even worse than most people had thought for the Conservatives. Labour won a huge amount of seats in Parliament, giving them an overwhelming majority. But under the surface, they didn't actually win that many votes. People just wanted change because of the UK's first-past-the-post system, meaning Labour won nearly 2/3 of Parliament with only just 1/3 of the total votes. Meanwhile, Reform UK had massively damaged the Conservatives by taking nearly 15% of the total vote and getting themselves a few seats in Parliament. But while their footprint in Westminster is small right now, they could easily grow to replace the Conservatives as the UK's main right-wing political party, with even the backing of Elon Musk, making it clear that no matter the country, everybody wants change. With terrible economies, growing crime, and growing instability throughout the West, it's clear why so many drastic changes have happened this year. July also saw an event that should have had a much more lasting impact in the news, but almost faded away with everything else that happened in the year.
Bro, why did we not learn anything about this motherfucking shooter, bro? That still bugs me to this day.
At one of his election rallies, an armed gunman climbed up onto a nearby roof and attempted to assassinate Trump. We all saw the footage, the bullet missed by just millimeters. One gust of wind or one minor shake of the
Bro, I was watching that shit live, bro.
gunman's hand decided the fate of the world in that moment, and who knows what could have happened if he hadn't missed. It's fairly certain that America's political tension would have boiled over into all-out chaos.
Bro, if he didn't miss, we would probably be in a civil war right now. There would be martial law. It would be like how it was with the riots everywhere back with the George Floyd situation. It would probably be 10x that.
And it was a complete disgrace that this happened from a security perspective. But luckily he survived.
The militias would be
and then as
going
July turned into
crazy.
August, the Olympics started up in Paris and dominated the world's newsfeed for weeks. The recent elections were still fresh in people's minds, and politics immediately found its way into the event. First, there was the shockingly terrible opening ceremony, and its parody of the last...
This is why... Like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing, bro? Like, what? Just look at this fucking image, man. Is this art to y'all?
Supper, which angered the entire world. Then there was China's intervention and the silencing of Taiwan, banning all mention of their country flag and national identity from the Olympics. Russia's exclusion from the event entirely also detracted from the overall competitiveness, in spite of the good reasons for their ban. But even with those things in mind, the quality of the competition and the dedication of the athletes easily shined through. It gave people a welcome break from the political chaos of the past few months, even with all the bogus political virtue signaling that was forced into the event. However, far more people remember Turkey's shooting silver.
Dude, man, it's so fucking iconic.
The medalist and his lack of equipment than remember the political controversies. In fact, the most negative thing that people remember was Australia's amateur breakdancer, which they entered into the newly created Olympic event. Nobody should condone the harassment.
Bro, when they reenact, bro, nah, fuck that. Stop being weaker in the Olympics, bro. Bowling's part of fucking sports culture. It is what it is. Hazing, bowling, fucking, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But at the end of the day, bro, when the NFL players were reenacting that shit for touchdowns, oh my god.
She received, but it's also not wrong to face up to reality and call a spade a spade. September would then prove to be an incredible...
I'm surprised he didn't mention anything about the boxing situation, because it came out later on that the lady that had like the chromosomes of a man, but everyone was like, oh, that's just speculation, that's just people pushing a narrative, anti-woke narrative. Turned out she was actually a guy, like straight up. So yeah, and no one really talked about that.
It'll be a big month for the music industry, although not in a way that most people expected. Earlier in the year, Kendrick Lamar and Drake's public feud had brought some deeply disturbing allegations to light. This month would prove...
Yeah, when did it be okay to accuse someone as a PDF file in a rap battle? And people are just singing that shit, bro. Like, is that true or not? Like, if it's not true, like, I kind of view Kendrick in a different light, But, I mean, I was like heavily invested in the rap battle because I love hip hop, and there was a lot of breadcrumbs, I guess you could say, in some of Drake's lyrics.
Though the Drake's alleged crimes were far from an isolated incident. P. Diddy had suddenly come into the news for a story of his depraved parties, the freak-off parties, completely pulling the veil back on how disturbing Hollywood and the music industry really is.
I do not think, maybe from watching this video, you might think Diddy's situation and Drake's situation correlate. I've heard nothing about Drake when it comes to the Diddy situation.
Especially at the upper echelons of the industry.
But
in March, police had raided the rapper's LA mansion and found a treasure trove of drugs, weapons, and reportedly over 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Yep,
and suddenly all the people connected with P. Diddy, which was a huge chunk of the American elite, were now shaking in their boots. And the controversy really started when an ex-partner of the musician accused him of using his position in the industry to exploit and abuse her. She described a world of predatory parties, where women would be coerced, drugged, and forced into performing depraved acts. The case was settled out of court.
I'm gonna call it right now. If Diddy commits, if he offs himself, if he ends his life or whatever, you know, hopefully YouTube doesn't fucking hurt me from saying something like that. Hit that like button to help push this out to more people, because I said that I don't know if that's gonna hurt the algorithm or not. But if he does, the Illuminati's real. It's got to be fucking real.
The very next day, but it would turn out to be only the tip of a very large iceberg. Over the next few days, more and more allegations added up, eventually leading to the rapper's arrest on the 16th, which we made an entire video on earlier in the year.
And also there was rumors that he had an arrangement with the FBI, but they like stepped in before that just to make it look like he wasn't working with the FBI, which is really sketchy because people think that Diddy is a plant. Also how like Epstein was a plant, and they think that like this is all like tinfoil hats, right? Not factual. This is speculation, rumors and shit like that. But the fact that the FBI could be like mind controlling or persuading, you know, using leverage on these huge celebrities to get dirt on everybody else. It's like, what exactly, like, I get you want control, if that is true, but what would you be doing with that control? I just don't understand what they would be doing with like celebrities. Now maybe political figures, yes, I could see that a lot more, like with the Clintons and all that kind of stuff, but celebrity, like, why?
We could easily see lots more crimes exposed in the industry over the next year, as it seems the top of the celebrity industry has some very disturbing secrets they're desperately trying to hide. A similar veil was also being lifted in the influencer world, as Mr. Beast, who enjoyed years of interrupted dominance in the YouTube world, suddenly found himself in hot water, as earlier in the year allegations were made accusing him of workplace abuse.
Someone's gonna get sued. And it's probably going to be dog pack.
And shady behind-the-scenes practices, especially concerning the issue with one of his friends. While the whole situation is a mess, and we don't...
Nah, Chris looks sus. But Mr. Beast did come out and talk about the whole situation. And he kind of... I think the way he handled it was good. Better than most people would probably handle that situation. But nah, Chris, bro. Nah, Chris be looking sus, man. Straight up. And then a lot of people try to milk that and like lie and like add extra fake shit to make it look even worse. But now the shit that's real is fucking disturbing.
I don't really know what the truth is here. It would prove to be a turning point in Mr. Beast's reputation online.
I think it's real. I don't know exactly
seemed almost indestructible. Whether or not this is legitimate though, that's up to you. But it was clear that people were losing patience in his brand with the release of Lunchly. The Lunchables-inspired product was seen by most as a blatant low-quality cash grab designed to dupe his younger audience.
Who gives a fuck, honestly? At the end of the day, capitalism, baby. Supply and demand. Guess what? They got fucking amazing publicity off of that shit. They have their market. They got their audience and everything. So yeah, they got the customer base. Why not? Who cares?
When people bought them, lots of people found they had already gone moldy, and the supposed health benefits they advertised didn't really stand up to closer inspection.
Yep.
Angry responses to criticism from Mr. Beast.
And I guarantee you, a bunch of people, once that started happening, guess what they did? They bought some Lunchables and they left them bitches out of the fridge for a couple days, let it mold up, and then they got themselves a little camcorder, recorded that shit, and made themselves a little viral video.
His business partners, Logan Paul and KSI, really didn't help.
You gotta look at both perspectives.
Although in the grand scheme of things, there wasn't really much here compared to everything else. But the next month would bring another influencer crashing down to reality.
Who?
This time it was Johnny Somali, whose abusive tour of the world finally came to an end.
We didn't cover this on the channel, but I was watching,
for his streaming career was to go to a foreign country, intentionally abuse and antagonize its people, and...
Bro, Scum of the earth.
Then record the often violent results. Typically, his disrespect
Fuck
only earned him
around,
travel
you
bans and
find
slaps
out.
on the wrist, but that all changed when he was arrested in South Korea on October 26th for desecrating a monument. South Korean officials would later lock in a travel ban, preventing him from leaving the country before his trial in 2025. And if convicted, he might actually face up to 5 years in prison, perhaps even more if he's found guilty of other crimes as well. However, November's biggest event was by far the US election. In the days before it happened, polls and mainstream news organizations insisted that it was a 50-50 toss-up with no clear favorites, even though all the gambling market said otherwise. And almost everybody knew this wasn't true. And the results obviously spoke for themselves. Trump swept every single swing state, taking the election by storm, being yet another huge monumental changing point in the Western political sphere.
I'm sorry, but this graphic doesn't do it justice.
Trump
Because
swept every single swing state,
if
taking
you
the
show
election
by county, the whole country is fucking red. There's just a couple key cities in these blue states that were fucking blue. And unfortunately, they get the majority of the polls because of population based in the cities. But dude, the whole country was fucking red. All these states were
by
red,
storm,
bro.
being yet another huge monumental changing point in the Western political sphere, showing that people were sick to death of the current establishment. In the aftermath, nearly all the legal cases brought against him were thrown out or postponed indefinitely. Even
And then, Biden, pardoned like a couple hundred people.
strictly anti-Trump
including his
people like Mark
son, which
Zuckerberg
I get.
were now
It's your
almost
son.
talking about him positively.
I do
Establishment
the same
figures
shit.
from leading journalists to industry magnates nearly all fell in line to secure their place in the
Bro, Mark Cuban got on his knees for this guy, bro. He went ham for
administration. And
Biden.
the consequences of this are too large to know, but only the next 4 years will give us the answer. Hopefully for America though, this will go some way towards mellowing out the political division that's plagued the country for years. But for the rest of the world, there will be a lot of consequences as well. The Ukraine war, which has been raging since 2022, will most likely see an end soon, as Trump's indicated that he's dead set on bringing this to a close at the negotiating table. It's also big for Europe, as December saw France's imbalanced government finally implode and Macron's pick for PM get ousted. And it's really unclear whether Macron will be able to hang on to whatever power he has left, or if Marine Le Pen will swoop in to take advantage of the chaos. Germany's government is all but guaranteed to collapse sooner rather than later, with its snap elections expected early next year.
We don't want that. I don't know how many times Germany's government's collapsed, but shit, last time I remember in the history book, we had a world war, so better get that shit together, Germany.
And at the same time, Justin Trudeau has had massive amounts of pressure to step down, with almost all of Canada now hating their prime minister, leaving both Europe and Canada without any strong leaders as Trump comes into power, giving him a very
This man talked about making Canada the 51st state. And he also talked about changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Oh man, and people out there, they're scared that Trump's gonna alienate the United States and make everybody hate us. I mean, people already hate us. They do. But I can see your perspective on that, because the man is saying some wild shit already and he's not even in office. But this is what happens when you let Bernie Sanders fucking get cheated out of a vote against Hillary. He got fucking hoed twice. So yeah, it
Trump
is what it
position to
is.
negotiate
You got Kelsey
from within the
Gabbard
political
with him
bloc.
now too.
2024 was the
She
year
would've
that
been an
showed us
amazing
how much the
candidate.
world is really changing. From the political and geopolitical establishment to people's
I mean,
anger
this
and
naturally
frustrations.
happens over
Trust
time,
in
right?
the entire financial system, our leaders, our culture is at an all-time low. Bitcoin skyrocketing above $100,000 showed this, as people are rejecting the nonsense they have to live through, which made 2024 such a pivotal year for all of us. And one massive piece of news that happened towards the end of this year really bears discussion, of course. But as we've already seen, people just mentioning this on YouTube often find themselves demonetized and censored.
Yeah. I had to delete a lot of comments on my videos when it came to this guy. I actually had to delete a video where I react to the whole situation about this guy. I love having views and new viewers and shit like that, but motherfucker, sometimes people go crazy on the comment sections, and I love it when people talk about and share their opinions and shit. But come on, man, this is not 4chan.
However, seeing the response to all of this, and the huge praise online for Luigi, really highlighted the true extent of the changing times we're living through.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with these. You can have an opinion and think he's a fucking hero. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, that's your fucking opinion. I think he murdered someone, and I don't think that's cool. Can't be running around killing people for no fucking reason. Wild
What's
here.
going on, guys? This is Rob
and it's
and
crazy.
Marvin.
Oh goodness. Let's not look at that. Oh my goodness. Mr. Cosmic explained. Yeah, so it's wild because that was the video looking back at 2024, and we already have so many new situations, whether it be the fall conspiracy, which is fucking nutty. You have the UAP situation that has, kept going into 2025. You have the leaked emails situation, which is wild with the Tesla bomber. And then you have the situation in New Orleans, and there's a couple other situations as well that are devastating. But man, and the New Orleans one had like a fucking ISIS flag. It's like some people are calling it a false flag. Oh man, it's fucking weird, bro. But yeah, that was a great video. Let's actually let me go back and look at the comment section real quick. Dude, Moon makes some amazing videos. He really does. Let's look down below at the comments. It really has been a crappy year, but my 75-year-old dad beat lung cancer. Oh, that's awesome. Beat cancer this year. So in a way, it's been the best year of my life. That's awesome. Watch 2025 be more goofier than 2024. We're already on track for that. We just are. And we're going to have so many good video games as well. So we're going to be able to cope. If they never killed Harambe, we might be still sane. Wise words, Mr. Tyler. It seems like literally every year since 2020 has just been one giant meme. It really has. Ever since the world had changed in 2020. For the better, for the worse, that's, your perspective. But it's definitely been a meme. So yeah, that's the video, guys. Go give it a like. Moon did an amazing job looking back at 2024. We can put it into the past. Man, thank God we can put it in the fucking rear view mirror. But yeah, my name is Trey Swish. Thank you for watching this video. This is the Ether. Make sure you hit that sub button to join the Ether. I love y'all, Ether. And yeah, let's get to 1,000 subs, baby. 1,000, 1K. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.